Hello, welcome to the Eldenwood Craft Podcast. My name's Emma and this is my place where I talk to you about all the things I've been making since we last met. Today is Sunday the 28th of March and you are all very welcome here. So grab yourself a drink and your craft of choice and we will get stuck in. There will be show notes for this episode in the description box down below, and in the show notes I will put links to all the projects that I talk about and to any producers that I talk about, so yarn dyers, podcasters, all the usual stuff. Quick note about the pattern links, the project links. They will be Ravelry, but I have also looked and will make sure that I put any non-Ravelry links in that I can find. I know some of the patterns that I'll be talking about today, the designers have got them for sale on places like Etsy and Payhip. So I'll do my best to put non-Ravelry links in the show notes. In the show notes you'll also find a link to my website, which is www.eldenwoodcraft.com, and I think I might also start putting the show notes onto my website. I used to have them on my old website but I haven't put them on since swapping over. No one specifically asked for it, but it would be quite nice to have a complete record there. My website is also where you can buy my handmade project bags and notions cases and so on, and soon I hope to be able to expand my range a little bit as well into other items. So in today's episode, show notes, what are we talking about? There'll be a little bit of admin at the beginning, a little bit of Make 9 chat, and then I've got, how many projects was I going to talk about? 3, 4, 5, 6 projects to talk about. One of them is a finished object and a little bit of incoming goodness. So that's the intro done. Let's get into all the good stuff. So admin. It's the end of March and so we're coming up to the end of the first quarter for the Make 9 make along that some of you are participating in. I had a look at the finished object thread last night and there at the moment there's something like 39 or 40 finished objects, which is great. Thank you very much for supporting the make along. You have got, just as a reminder, until the end of this month to pop in any of your Make 9 projects that you've finished into that finished objects thread, and then I will draw a prize winner from the January to March finished objects in time for the next time that I record a podcast. You can use the hashtag, no, I need to check this because I always forget, ECMake921. I've also seen people using ECMake92021, so either of those is fine if you want to share what you've been making on Instagram. And if you're not able to use Ravelry but do want to still participate, then you can use the hashtag ECMNFO21 on Instagram to post pictures of your finished objects, and I follow all those hashtags so I will see them, and anything that's been added in for January to March with that finished object hashtag I will make sure is included in the prize draw. What else have I got to say? My Make 9. I think the last time I recorded I hadn't quite come up with my Make 9, but I have now, and I'll pop a picture of it on screen and just talk quickly through what I plan to make. I've got a picture of it here as well. So starting in the top left hand corner is a picture of my crochet blanket, and that is there to represent my two blankets that I've got on the go at the moment. I've got a crochet blanket and a Scrappy Sock Blanket, and I'd really like to get those finished this year. Second picture is another blanket. That's the habitation throw. That was a particular pattern that I want to knit this year. The top right is a picture of the Felix sweater, and that's just to represent the fact that I want to knit some more sweaters this year. Middle row on the left is a pair of socks. I can't remember what pattern that is, but I really like it. But that is to represent the fact that I want to make my husband some socks this year. Middle picture in the middle row, colourwork hat. I'd like to knit some more colourwork hats. And on the right hand side, two little socks. That's there because I have found that my socks seem to be a bit on the big side at the moment, so I really want to nail that perfect sock fit for me. So that will involve knitting lots of pairs of socks this year. Bottom row, on the left is a picture of a shawl that I have got in my Ravelry library. I think it's called the number 10 shawl, and I can't remember who it's by. I absolutely love it, and it's there to represent knitting from my library. So knitting either out of patterns that I've bought or books that I've got. Middle, I've had this in my Make 9 for the last few years and never managed it, but I really want to do some dressmaking, and I actually really like that dress. I don't know what it is, but it's lovely. So yeah, I really want to do some dressmaking. And on the very bottom right hand corner, it's a picture of a New York cross stitch, and I have got a very old New York cross stitch that I've got on the go. It's been on the go for about 4 or 5 years, I think, and I'd like to try and get that finished this year. So that is my Make 9. Let's see how we get on. If you're participating, are you getting on well? Are you staying focused and sticking just to your Make 9, or are you being distracted by all the lovely new things that keep popping up in our feeds? Anyway, that's Make 9 for this episode. Right, on to the knitting and crochet. I've got a pile of things here to talk about, and I've got a list in my show notes. The first two things actually aren't here, so I'm just going to pause and go and get them. So the first thing I'm going to talk to you about is my crochet blanket, and I'm making this for my daughter to take off to university in the autumn. She knows exactly where she's going, when she's going, and where she'll be staying, so that's great. I just need to do my bit of the deal and finish this blanket so she can take it and she can have a nice hug with mum when she's feeling a bit homesick, if she feels homesick. So I think I showed this to you maybe towards the end of last year. Since that point, I ripped it out. I had got quite far with it, but I felt it was maybe a little bit too wide. I don't know what I was thinking, but I ripped it all out and started again. And I've made some decent progress on it actually. So I'm going to stand up, I'm going to turn it the right way round, stand up and show it to you. If you remember, my daughter had said that she would like a blanket made out of blues and greys. So that's the basic theme that I'm sticking with throughout this. And yeah, here it is. Let me stand up. So it's not the widest, but it's wide enough. And I have, there, you can see. Oh, you can see, look, I'm in my baggy grey jogging bottoms. Not very stylish, but yes, so this is it. It's a basic granny stripe blanket, focus. Basic granny stripe blanket using the Attic 24 pattern. Not really a lot to say about it. It's quite pretty. I'm a bit fed up with it now, to be honest. I quite like it to be finished. I don't think I've got too much longer to go, and then I'll do just a simple border around the edge, because that's where borders go, isn't it? what did I write down? What notes? Oh, so I started off doing the magic knot for joining my yarns. And then I got a little bit worried that it was going to unravel when it got up to university with my daughter. So I've started using the clasp weft join method for joining the yarns. I've spoken about that before in another project, I think probably a Scrappy Sock project. It's a really good method for when you're not too worried about there being a little bit of extra bulk at the place where you join. I probably wouldn't use it in a sweater or something that's got a long expanse of plain stocking stitch where it would be quite easy to spot the join. But for something like this, and if I show you, these edges are where I have used the clasp weft join, and you can't really see. I can feel that it's a little bit, that the stitches are a little bit thicker, but yeah, you can't really see, and it means that there are no ends whatsoever to weave in. So I'm really enjoying that. If you Google clasp weft join, there are loads of tutorials online for that particular method of joining yarn. Yeah, I'm using hook size 3, I think, 3mm. Yeah, this is my hook of choice. I can't see if that's focusing. I haven't got my glasses on today, but it's one of these nice ergonomic handles. I don't think that's focusing. Anyway, and here is my basket full of blue and grey yarn. So yeah, so I've got a little bit to go on that, and then I'll call it a day, probably when it's up to my daughter's shoulders from the floor, probably that sort of length. She's taller than me, and this at the moment comes up to, well, comes up to there. There you go, boob shot. Right, so that's my crochet blanket. The other project to show you is my other blanket that I've had on the go for absolutely years and years. I can't remember when I started knitting this, but I know it will be probably about 6 years ago. 5-6 years ago, and it's my Scrappy Cosy Memories Blanket, living in this basket. If I show you this, oh, look at all that loveliness. Oops. So yeah, my sock, Cosy Memories Scrappy Sock Yarn Blanket, whatever you want to call it. Am I in focus? I think so. Yes. Right. So given that this has been on the go for, let's call it 6 years, I've not got very far with it. I fell completely out of love with it for a while and didn't pick it up for quite a long time, probably a year, more than a year. But I just wanted to show it on the podcast today because it is part of my Make 9 and I would really like to get this finished, and so I want to record progress. So this is it. I'll stand up again so you can see. I haven't got that far with it. I'm on to, there we go. I'm on to row number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, row 9. And each row consists of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21 squares. I know that was probably the most interesting bit of the podcast that I have ever recorded, me counting squares, but there you go. Having started this again, I'm really enjoying it, and I much prefer this to my granny stripe blanket, I have to say, at the moment anyway. I've been keeping this by my bed. When I get home in the evening from work, I've been taking half an hour with a cup of tea to go and sit up on my bed and knit on a square every now and then. And since doing that, in January, I've actually completed 2 rows and onto this 3rd row. So these top 2 rows have been knit since January, and this one obviously. Yeah, so again, not a lot to say about this, but I do want to record progress. There are lots of tutorials online again for this blanket, for creating these mitered squares and joining them. If you Google Cosy Memories Blanket or Scrappy Sock Yarn Blanket, I'm sure you'll find something. I make my little squares by casting on 40 stitches, and I basically do in the middle, when I get to the middle on one side, I do a knit 2 together, knit 2 together. I know there is a different way of doing that, but that's what I do. And I'm using needle size 2.5 millimeters, I think. I'm using these Knit Pro Symphony DPNs. I haven't used these for yonks, and I was getting a little bit fed up with, that's what I was originally using, Knit Pro Zing, but I think that might be one of the reasons I actually stopped knitting on it, because I wasn't enjoying the needles, and I found these in my needle stash and really enjoy using those. So yeah, so that's my Scrappy Sock Yarn Blanket. I'm just going to sit with it on my knee at the moment like a granny. Okay, right, on to the next project, and that is another blanket. Since last speaking to you, I have cast on the Habitation Throw. That is a pattern by Helen Stewart, who is Curious Handmade online. It's a pattern that's a couple of years old, I think. She designed it to use minis from advent calendars, I think, if I remember properly. And what I have planned to do is to knit mine out of some Sherry Iris yarn. So Sherry Iris, who is a lovely dyer and has a really, really lovely podcast, one of my favourites. She is creating each month some flower. I don't think it's wildflower. I can't quite remember the name of sort of the project, but it's every month she's coming up with a bunch of minis that are that she's dyed based on a particular flower. And you're going to ask me which ones I've got in my blanket. Oh, can I remember? Have I got the labels? Yes, I have. Okay, so the original pattern calls for using 10 gram minis, I think. I'm actually using 20 gram minis, and this is the progress made so far. It looks like a beard. But yes, colours. Certainly the current colour I'm using is not one I would usually use, but that's why I quite like doing this sort of thing. Sort of scrappy projects do, for me, give me that little bit of authority to use colours that I wouldn't normally use. I don't mean authority, but do you know what I mean? So, colours. The green is based on a snowdrop, and this pinky colour is based on a hellebore. I'm only using one of the 20 minis, so each month you get 5 20 gram minis. I'm only using one of the 20 gram minis, so I've got loads left. If I show you in my bag, this is my lovely Alex Collins bag. I love this print. Alex screen prints these herself. I'm sure you all know Alex Collins. She's has another really nice podcast actually. But yeah, anyway, so in there are all of my other leftovers from January and February. I haven't yet received March. I think that might be tulips. I'm sure I ordered them. Anyway, I'm just really enjoying this. It's a nice mindless knit all in garter stitch with just something extra to do every once in a while. I'm going to need to swap out my needles soon though. These are Chiaogus and they are 4mm. I've got some longer ones in my needle box somewhere. But yeah, so this will be a project that runs throughout the year, and hopefully by December I'll have a nice big wrap to keep me warm. I just want to show you the the ball bands because they're so pretty. Sherry's son, I think, I'm not sure if it's Sherry or Sherry's son, does the artwork for these. Here they are. Is that focusing? There we go. Aren't they pretty? Snowdrop and Hellebore. Right, on to the next project. Okay, this one is a finished object and I love it. I love it. And I love that I've got so much yarn left over as well that I can use the yarn up for something else. Right, so I have knit myself a pair of fingerless mitts. It's the Everything November fingerless mitts by Jen Yard. I saw this pattern talked about on Denise's podcast, Denise's Earth Tones Girl, another podcast that I really enjoy. And if you remember in my last podcast, I showed you a pair of fingerless mitts that I had made earlier this year or at the end of last year, and they were all a bit baggy and loosey-goosey and I wasn't really that happy with them. These are the complete opposite. I adore them. This is the yarn that I used. I've showed this on the podcast before. This is Giddy Yarns. It's her Indiana Jones colourway, self-striping, and it's BFL. High twist superwash BFL nylon. There's Helen's ball band. And let me pop the mitts on so you can see them. I love them. It's just a shame it's not cold enough to wear them. In fact, this week, it's Sunday today, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday this week, we're going to have some absolutely cracking weather. It's going to get into the 20s already, which is lovely. Right, here we go. Aren't they just super? Colour, pattern, fit, everything is perfect. Yeah, you can see, it's a really simple pattern. It's a rib. And you can see with a plain stocking stitch thumb gusset. I am just so happy with them. I didn't do any colour matching, I'm not bothered about that. There's not a lot more to say about them, just if I can tell you once more how much I love them, I will do so. Yeah, really pleased with those. I will definitely make some more of those. They took, if I remember rightly, I did weigh how much yarn I had left, and I think they took 39 grams to make. So yeah, I mean, you could use some minis, you can use leftovers, you could do all sorts with these. Being a rib, they fit really snugly. Yeah, I like how the thumbs actually, the thumbs have just got one row of a different colour. That worked out really well. Yeah, so really happy about that. Helen's yarn is gorgeous. It's got a little bit of tooth to it, so it's not a softy merino, but I actually quite like that. It feels sturdy and like it's going to take a lot of wear. So, you know, this high twist BFL base would be really good for socks as well. And actually, I think, where did I put the leftovers? I think I shall make a pair of shorties shorty socks out of the leftovers because they will be fab. I'll have matching hands and matching feet. Okay, did I have anything else to say about that? Pattern by Jen Yard. Jen is Everything Shapes Us on Instagram. She has some really bright, pretty, scrappy projects. Her feed is really nice, so I recommend following her if you're on Instagram and don't. I put details in the show notes. It's a paid for pattern on Ravelry and it is also on Etsy. There we go, that's them. Right, they will probably go away now though until the autumn. But yes, very pleased with those. Okay, on to my next project. I've got 2 more to talk about. And which one shall I do? I'll do them in the order that I've written them down. This is a project that I'm sure I had started last time I spoke to you, and it's Andrea Mowry's Stripes sweater. I am knitting this out of Drops Nord. I've got 6 colours, 3 greys, excuse me, and 3 colours. And I'm really happy with it. I have it here. I have finished the body, finished one sleeve, and I'm working my way down the last sleeve. I'm so happy with it. I love the colours. They are popping in. They look really bright and fun on camera. Yeah, it's a really nice, fun knit. Because of the stripes, it's like knitting stripy socks. You just want to get on to the next colour, and so it's been quite a quick knit. I made some really quick progress on the body, and then when it came to starting the sleeves, I put it away for a little while, for a few weeks, but I've just picked it up again, and certainly that sleeve has taken me about a week, and this one I hope will be finished by the end of this week. The one thing I'm not happy about, 2 things actually, both I will show you. My hem is flipping up quite badly. I might rip that hem out and go down another needle size. I went down a needle size for the rib at the end of the sleeve, and that's cinching in quite nicely. So I might do the same with the hem at the bottom of the jumper and see if that makes a difference. The other thing that I'm unhappy about is I noticed a dropped stitch up here, oops, where that marker is. So I've just clipped it to make it safe, and I will have to go in and do some rescue work on that. I'm not quite sure how, but I did see actually on my Instagram feed that Coco Knits are doing a series of quick videos on their feed about how to rescue dropped stitches in different types of situations, and the one that they've got coming up next is a dropped stitch in the body of a piece of knitting. So yeah, that'll be quite good to watch that. Needles I'm using, actually let me show you the needles I've got in my bag. I've got all of these. I'm not sure I don't think I've used them all, but I'm currently knitting using my favourite Chalgoos. Can you see that? The red cord Chalgoos. Needle of choice if I have them in that size. But I've used all sorts here. Chalgoos, I've used some higher, I've used some Addies, and I have used some Zings as well. But I would go for the Chalgoos if they were available. So yeah, really lovely jumper. Did I say who it's a pattern by? So it's by Andrea Maori. You've probably all heard of her. Drea Renee Knits on Instagram. Pattern is really good. It's very detailed. There are loads of pages to it showing you the side of a piece of paper. But yeah, it's a really well written pattern. Paid for on Ravelry and also on her website. Yes, there's you can access the pattern on her website as well if you can't use Ravelry. Yeah, so the next time I record, this will be finished, and all the ends, shall I show you all the ends? They will be woven in, and then it will be too warm to wear because it will be summer. Because it will probably take me as long to weave in all the ends as it has to taken to make the jumper. Right, is this the right way round? I've been leaving my ends loose, or for the body of the sweater I left my ends loose. Halfway down the first sleeve I started weaving them in as I went, so most of the ends that need work on are on the body of the jumper. Look at that. Camera just stopped. I think that must have been half an hour of recording. So yeah, I was just showing you that awful tangled mess of ends, and there's some more there as well. But you know, that's an evening or two's work really, isn't it? So yeah, it'll get done. It'll get done because I want to wear the jumper. Okay, pop that on the floor. Last project for today is one that I started on a whim just a few days ago. I had these two leftover nuggets of yarn that sit on top of my shelving unit there, which is just next to, I don't know what just dropped there, just next to my pressing station. And every time I went to press some interfacing onto a bag, I would see these two next to each other, and I always thought they would make a really nice, or they'd work really nicely in a project together. So I've been thinking about what I could put them into, and then I thought, actually I've got some others that would work nicely with those as well. So I've got some greys and that, and they are now all being knit into a litmus cowl, which is a pattern by Amy Florence, Amy of Stranded Dye Works. It's a free pattern. Loads of people have knit this. In fact, I'm really late to the party on this. But yeah, it's a free pattern on Ravelry. I had a look, I couldn't find it anywhere else. But yeah, and this is progress that I've made. It's bunched up on little 16-inch zings. I've gone down a needle size to what was recommended in the pattern. I didn't really like the fabric I was getting in the pattern, so I've gone down. I think the pattern calls for, it's either 3 or 3.75, and I'm actually knitting on 3mm, so quite a lot smaller needles. But I'm happy with the fabric that is being created. And I am really enjoying the repetitive round and round and round. And like the sweater and like stripy socks, it's quite addictive because you just want to get on to the next stripe. So I'm doing 10 rows of this grey, which I had almost 100 grams of, and then I'm doing 5 rows of these. And if I run out of yarn before it's long enough, it's a cowl that you wrap around twice, and it just sits as a tube, a long tube. So yeah, if I run out of sort of the accent colours, then I might throw in something else just to get to the length that I want. Yeah, not a lot else to say about that really. It's a pattern, I have to say, that I am I find myself picking up more often than most of my other patterns, works in progress at the moment. The green bit at the beginning, that's a provisional cast on. So you, if I explain it, you knit a really long tube and then you graft the ends together. Yeah, so it's like a really long tube that you wrap around. Yes, so just really enjoying this. Nice and simple. I think that's what my brain is calling for at the moment. In fact, when you think about all of my projects, there are none of them that are particularly complicated at all. So my brain is obviously asking for some simple crafting at the moment, which I suspect many of us feel like, don't we, given where we are in the world. Right, that's it for the making, I think. So yeah, I just want to share a little bit of lovely incoming stuff that I have had. So as well as the yarn for my habitation throw from Sherry Iris, I also ordered a couple of things from Jess at Loom, hand-dyed yarns. Jess has just got the most beautiful aesthetic and very up my street. If you haven't seen her, then if you haven't seen the yarn that she dyes, I would highly recommend going and have a look. But leave some stuff for me because I would like to get some more. But this is the skein that I ordered. There's her ball band. So this is yak sock. It's 70% superwash merino, 20% yak and 10% nylon, 100 grams, 400 meters. And if you can read that, it's in the even fall colourway. It's lovely. It's funny, isn't it? I look at that and I think, goodness, that is just beautiful. It makes me very, very happy. We all have our own taste, don't we? And I know many of you, some of you, will probably look at that and think, it's a bit boring. But it makes my heart skip a beat, this sort of colourway. There are people who love pinks, and unless it's in a scrappy project type thing, I wouldn't go near a pink really. But that's why knitting is so good, and yeah, there's so much choice, and there are people out there doing the thing that you love and need. So yeah, so for me at the moment it's Jess at Loom Wool. But I didn't just get myself that, oh no. I also treated myself to a set of Jess's minis. Not a particularly different sort of colour palette. This is Jess's twist sock mini set. It's superwash merino nylon 80/20, and there are 5 20-gram minis, and this just says colourway mini set number 15. I don't know what I will make out of these, but they are pretty, aren't they? And do you know what, having said I wouldn't go for pink usually, there's a really pretty gentle pink, but they all just work really well together. Yeah, so yeah, Loom, lovely, really pleased with those. Okay, that's everything that I've had in. In terms of what's going on with my shop, there's a couple of little things in there at the moment. There's some made to order bags available if anyone's interested. I think I've only got 1 or 2 slots left though, but I'm actually working on a new collection to go in the shop as soon as I can get enough bags done. It's a collection based around allotments and cutting gardens and that sort of thing. So the story behind the collection, I wish I had something to show you, but I want to keep the fabrics a bit of a surprise until nearer to the time that they are ready to be shared. But the story behind the collection is that one of the walks that my husband and I do when we go out for our government sanctioned exercise is we go past some allotments, and we realised that we'd been past them now for about a year, and we'd seen them change from where we are at this time of year, just coming back to life and coming into full bloom, and then dying down over the winter, and we're about to see them spring into life again. So I found some really lovely some really beautiful fabrics that remind me of allotments and veggies and cutting gardens. So yeah, I'm busily making a variety of bags out of that fabric at the moment, and I'm really looking forward to sharing them with you. If you want to, you can sign up for my newsletter on my website, and my newsletter subscribers will be amongst the first to know about these bags and when they'll be released. And I'm looking at working out how to make a discount code for email subscribers, newsletter subscribers. So it's worth signing up for the newsletter if you want to get in early or get in first, and assuming I can work out how to put a discount code together, getting a little bit of money off a bag. Right, that's what I'm going to say about my bags. In terms of life update, not much. Well, I was going to say not much has changed. Actually, there is a ton of stuff happening behind the scenes that I really want to tell you about, but I can't at the moment. I am afraid of jinxing anything, but very, very soon I hope to be able to reveal a little bit of good news. I'm not pregnant. We're a long way past that, just in case that's what you were thinking about. Yeah, that boat sailed a while ago. But yeah, so we are really busy behind the scenes getting some stuff sorted out that will... I'm just going to leave it there. I'm not going to give anything away, because if I keep talking, I will tell you, and I don't. I want to, but I don't want to. But other than the big news, not much has changed. We are being quiet at home. My daughter's gone back to school, although she's only got a handful of weeks left now because she's in her final year at school. It would have been an A-level year for her. And now they've got a few weeks of assessments, and then school finishes at the mid to end of May, I think. And then she's got a lovely long summer ahead of her. I'm so jealous. I'd love to have 3 months off. Well, she's got June, July, August, 4 months off. Wouldn't that be lovely over the summer? But anyway, yeah, I think probably that's enough for today. I think I've managed to keep that at around 40 minutes, which would be good. So all that leaves me to say is I hope you are all well. If you've enjoyed today's episode, then do give me a like and subscribe to the channel if you want to be notified when I next record and release a video. As I said, it's Sunday. I will probably not get to edit this until the first part of the week, so hopefully this is going up middle of the week. And then I will be back hopefully in April to do the prize draw for the Make 9 make along, and to show you progress on other things that I've been making, and hopefully to tell you my big news, our big news. Anyway, that'll do for now. I hope you're well, as I said, and I keep safe, and I will speak to you very soon. Bye bye.